Hola, and welcome to this edition of DURKO's Notebook for the Mexican Grand Prix. Got a lot to talk about, so pull up a pew, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
You wouldn't fucking read about it.
The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, located in Mexico City on the outskirts of the city itself towards the airport, is a very old circuit. It's been there for years, and again, Mexico was host to its another round after 60 years. It's been going to Mexico for F1 races. It's a circuit that is probably not the best part of town. If you ever go there, try and make sure you get there safely because the subway system's not the safest in the world, and I was lucky enough to ride it a few times and got away with it unscathed when I went. I sat in the baseball stadium, and the atmosphere there when Chico comes through is just literally like nothing else at any other circuit I've been to for a race. Again, Pirelli turned up here, and there was an extended FP2 session to allow Pirelli to run their test. Now, they were running a harder, different compound, but sort of between C1 and C2, trying to work that out. And there was bugger all grip there, and a lot of the cars struggled to find grip, even with the test tyre themselves. And the test tyre was obviously significant because there was no colour on the wall, it just said Pirelli. And yeah, so I don't know why they chose to go to Mexico to test it when they could have gone to other circuits. I mean, obviously they wanted to do it in Japan, but it was just too wet. Leclerc had a big off in free practice, of course, and Sainz as well struggled himself to find grip in the Ferrari. I'm surprised Leclerc didn't get away with more damage when he bent it into the wall. But Ferrari again struggled. They had some good form in the race, but yeah, just during all the free practice and quali stuff, they were all over the shop. We got to the race. Now, it was an absolute siesta of a race up until probably about the last third, I'd say, when Ricciardo decided he was going to try and cut the inside of Tsunoda. Now, he's come to the media and said he wasn't planning on doing that move, but he did anyway. Punted Tsunoda up in the air, braked the AlphaTauri. Dan Rick was able to keep going. The stewards gave him a 10-second penalty, which Martin Brundle, for one, thought was a bit too harsh. But for some reason, it obviously flicked a switch in Dan Ricciardo's head to say, I need to drive the skin off this thing. And that he did, because he got his penalty time back, plus some more time to keep 7th position, and a good result for him on his third last race with McLaren and potentially in F1. The rumour still is there that he's going to go to a reserve or test driver role with one of the teams. But he's staying stum on that as to which team it will be. I very much doubt it'll be Mercedes because he has openly admitted he's spoken to them before and he's quashed that rumour. Now, of course, there was a lot of discussion around Max's win and the dominance he's got at the moment. And I think people have got to get over it a bit. I look back to the years of... I've been watching F1 for a long time. I go back to the days of Senna, Prost, Mansell, Michael Schumacher when he won 7 titles and he just turned up to every race. He may as well not have raced because I knew he was going to win it anyway. It was just a show to show that Michael had won the race. Whoever came second after him, well, that was just trivial. We got from there, from the dominance of Schumacher to the dominance of Vettel and his 4 titles. Then we've seen Lewis come forward. We've seen drivers dominate, and this is now just the era of Max, and that's all it is. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not going to say that I'm a fan of Max. I say that all the time, but this is just the era of Max. The time will come where he stops winning and stops winning championships, and another driver will come through the ranks to take on the dominance title that Max is at the moment wearing on his shoulders. To begrudge the sport for it, to say it's unfair, that's your choice. It's just a fact. It swings and roundabouts as to how F1 works. That's all I want to say on that. Now, of course, Red Bull were handed their fine. They got a $7 million fine and loss of time in the wind tunnel. So that's going to affect their aero setup for next year. Interestingly, Christian Horner was very outspoken to the press conference and said he thinks all the other team principals need to apologise to him. I think, Christian, you need to get off the drugs and wake up to yourself because a breach is a breach. I agree with what Martin Brundle said in the US. There should be no minor or major breach. A breach is a breach. A woman can't be half pregnant, so why should you have a minor and a major breach? I think it's just pathetic that he's claimed that they've been done by, they're discriminated against. All this bullshit's been thrown at them, speculation, rumour, conspiracies, whatever. The fact is they breached it, whether it was through catering, paying out ex-employees for their dismissal or, sick pay, sick leave, whatever. The fact is the budget was breached, you went over, that's it. End of story. You just can't accept that, Christian, then mate, maybe it's time to move on. Anyway. That's all I've got to say, but just I want to reiterate a stellar drive by Dan Ricciardo in what was otherwise a very boring race, which could have been more exciting, but it wasn't until Dan Rick drove the skin off that McLaren. So that's it for this edition of DURKO's Notebook. Until next time when I report back in a couple of weeks for the Brazilian Grand Prix, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.